The wind whispered through the tall grass beyond the desert's edge, carrying the scent of dust and something sweeter, unfamiliar, like perfume from a forgotten dream. Arif adjusted the strap of his leather satchel, his eyes scanning the horizon, where the last traces of sunset bled into violet dusk. He wasn't supposed to be out this late. In his village, men did not wander beyond the date groves after Maghrib, not because of danger, but because of stories. Old ones. The kind grandmothers whispered with fingers wrapped in prayer beads and eyes full of warning. "Beware the dunes after dusk," they'd say. "The jinn walk when men stray." But Arif was not afraid. He was honest, perhaps too much so, and a little too curious for his own good. He often wandered alone, sketching birds or collecting rare desert herbs for his father's remedies. That evening, a strange flower had caught his eye, pale violet, blooming just beyond the farthest palm. He had followed it, and now the village was a distant sparkle behind him. The silence out here was different, not empty, listening. As Arif knelt to collect the flower, he heard it, the faintest sound. Not wind, not footsteps, breath. He stood quickly. Someone was watching, and then he saw her, standing a few feet away, between the last low dune and the darkening sky. She wore a long robe the color of starlight. Her hair fell in loose waves like night water, and her eyes, oh, her eyes, were darker than the river in moonlight, glowing not with light, but with depth. She said nothing, only watched. Arif cleared his throat. "I didn't mean to trespass," he said gently. Still, she didn't speak. "You're not from the village," he added. A pause. Then, finally, she smiled. Just a little. Enough to make the wind shift. "You are honest," she said. "That's rare." Her voice was like silk dragged across stone, soft, but filled with weight. Arif blinked. "I thank you. You're not afraid." "Should I be?" Another smile. She stepped closer. "No," she whispered. "Not yet." They stood in silence as the stars began to bloom overhead. Arif felt no fear, only wonder. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then said, "Laline." It settled into his chest like a seed. "I'm Arif." "I know," she said. They met again the next night, and the next, always at the same spot, beneath the same sky, beyond the village. He never asked where she lived, and she never asked why he trusted her. But each time she smiled, he noticed things. Her shadow never quite matched her steps. She never left footprints in the sand. And when she spoke of stars, she used names no astronomer knew. On the 7th night, she brought him a gift. A silver ring, warm to the touch, etched with symbols that shimmered. "What is it?" he asked. "A promise," she replied. "To what?" "To show you where I'm from." The wind howled as she raised her hand, and the dunes behind her split like curtains, revealing a staircase made of light and obsidian. A door, floating just above the earth, glowing with quiet fire. "Come with me," she said. "To where?" "To my world, Kohakaf." He hesitated, and then remembered the way her eyes softened when he told the truth. He stepped forward, took her hand, and the desert vanished beneath his feet. The first thing Arif noticed was the silence. Not the absence of sound, but a silence so deep it hummed, as if even the air held its breath. He stood at the edge of a world unlike anything his eyes or soul had ever known. Kohakaf. The desert behind him was gone. So was the sky. Above, there stretched a soft purple veil, streaked with silver clouds that moved like living ink. Below him lay a smooth path of obsidian glass, reflecting his form as though it, too, were watching. At the horizon, he saw floating towers, some made of smoke, others of crystal. Some rose like spires, others curved like horns. Between them, golden bridges arched over rivers that shimmered with light, not water. And at the center of it all, a palace, half cast in flame, half hidden behind moonlight. Beside him, Laline watched. "Welcome," she said softly, "to my home." Arif could barely speak. "What is this?" "Kohakaf," she repeated. "The kingdom of the jinn." They began walking, their steps silent on the obsidian. No sun warmed them, yet no chill touched them either. They passed a garden where trees bore glass fruits that glowed softly. He saw winged shadows in the sky, too far to understand. He heard no birds, but voices, soft, harmonic, drifting from nowhere and everywhere. "Do you live in that palace?" he asked. Laline shook her head. "My family does." He hesitated. "They know you're bringing me?" She smiled. "No." They entered a forest where the leaves changed shape with every breeze. The trees whispered in languages Arif couldn't name. One branch lowered toward him, as if curious. He flinched. Laline touched it, and it withdrew like a bowing servant. "This place is alive," he whispered. She nodded. "All of Kohakaf is. It remembers everything." They reached a pool of still water. Except it wasn't water, it was memory. When Arif looked in, he didn't see his reflection. He saw himself as a child, and then his mother's face, and then her funeral. He stepped back. Laline looked at him gently. "It shows only what shaped your soul." They walked further until the sky dimmed to a deep indigo. Above them, stars blinked in patterns Arif couldn't recognize. Each was a sigil, a secret, and somewhere in the far distance, a low sound echoed, not thunder, but the breath of something older than centuries. They arrived at a gate, carved from flame, anchored in stone. It pulsed slowly, like the rhythm of a heart too big to fit in one world. Two beings stood guard, cloaked, faceless, taller than any man. Laline approached. "This is Arif," she said, her voice suddenly more formal. "He comes in honesty." The guards didn't move, didn't speak, but the gate opened. Inside, everything shifted. Time didn't move. It folded. Space didn't stretch. It bent. And Arif felt something pass through him, not a presence, but an understanding, as if the air now knew his truth, his longing, his fear, his love. Laline led him into a chamber of glass and shadow. Curtains of silver mist moved without wind. Floating candles burned with blue fire. She turned to him. "You may stay," she said, "but not forever." "Why not?" "Because Kohakaf doesn't allow mortals." "But I'm here." "Because I brought you," she said, "and because your honesty let you pass. But eventually, the realm will know." She touched his cheek. "I will show you the wonders. But in the end, Arif, you must choose." "Choose what?" She stepped back. "To return, or remain, and never be yourself again." Arif awoke not in the chamber of silver mist, but in a different room altogether. The bed beneath him was carved from pale stone, warm as flesh. The walls shimmered, changing color with his breath. No door, no window, yet he felt neither trapped nor lost. He sat up. Laline was gone, but on the floor, a trail of light pulsed like a heartbeat, leading him forward. He followed it, past mirrors that reflected not just his face, but memories he hadn't lived, past doorways that whispered in voices that sounded like dreams spoken backward, past a hall of still water where his reflection blinked before he did. And then he entered a room filled with smoke. Not ordinary smoke. This smoke moved in slow spirals, forming faces, old, beautiful, terrifying. Some looked like stars, others like animals with human eyes. It wasn't choking or hot. It tasted of sandalwood and secrets. In the center of the hall sat a great brazier, burning blue. And around it, seated on cushions made of air, were 3 figures. One was tall and cloaked in feathers, a crown of horns rising from its brow. The second wore a veil of black pearls and whispered to itself with every breath. The third had no face at all, only a shifting mist where features should be. They turned toward Arif in perfect unison. "The mortal walks," the crowned one said. Its voice was like thunder wrapped in silk. "The gate let him pass," murmured the veiled one. "But should it have?" "He is honest," the faceless one replied, "but not ready." Arif stood still. "I didn't mean to offend," he said. "We are not offended," the crowned one said. "We are curious." They asked him questions. strange ones. Have you ever eaten your own fear? What color does guilt taste like? How many lies have you heard from your own heart? He answered as best he could, and when he finished, they fell silent. Then, slowly, each placed a stone into the brazier. The flames turned red. "Your truth protects you," said the faceless one. "But in Kohakaf, truth is not the only power." Then they vanished, one by one, like smoke returning to a bottle. Arif turned, and found Laline behind him. "You weren't supposed to come here yet," she said gently. "They called me. They wanted to see if you could lie." "Why would I?" She stepped closer. "Because everyone does, eventually, even to themselves." They left the hall of smoke. Laline led him to a garden where the trees grew upside down, where rivers ran upward and birds flew without wings. She showed him scrolls written on wind. He heard instruments play songs that remembered his childhood. And still, he noticed things. A whisper would follow them when they walked. Flickers of shadow when he blinked. Eyes in the fountains. Not reflections. Watchers. One night, while Laline slept in a bed of petals, Arif wandered into the grand library. There, he saw a book that bore his name on the spine. He opened it. The pages were blank, except the last one, and on it were words he had not yet spoken. "I choose to stay." He closed the book. His hands were trembling. When he returned, Laline was awake. She was staring at the stars, each now dimmer than before. "What's happening?" he asked. She didn't answer, but in the distance, a bell tolled, and 3 words floated down with the wind. "He has been seen." The bell tolled again the next morning. It rang not through halls or towers, but through the very sky, a trembling hum that rolled across the clouds of Kohakaf, reaching every hidden corner of the realm. Arif felt it vibrate through his ribs, as if the sound had found its way into his bones. When he opened his eyes, Laline was already awake. She didn't greet him. She didn't smile. She only said, "They've summoned me." Then, after a pause, "They've summoned you too." The walk to the grand court was silent. Kohakaf had changed overnight. What once shimmered and danced now stood still. The rivers no longer rippled. The air no longer sang. Even the trees of flame bent their heads as if in mourning. Above them, the stars blinked slower, as if they, too, were watching. The grand court was carved into the side of a floating cliff, its entrance framed by twin statues of jinn in battle, one made of fire, the other of shadow. Inside, the ceiling showed the memory of the sky, constellations from every world, frozen in silver motion. At the far end sat the Council of Veils. 7 jinn, ancient, unmoving, each wrapped in veils of colored silk that never settled, always shifting like waves caught in wind. Laline approached first. Arif followed, eyes forward, heart pounding. The central figure stood, its veil golden. "Laline of the 10th house," it said, voice soft and terrible. "You brought him." "I did," she replied. "And why?" She hesitated. Arif felt the air tighten. "Because he is honest," she said. "Because he is unlike the others." The veils rustled, like a forest exhaling. "You know the law." "I do. No mortal may remain. I ask for judgment to be withheld." A pause. Then the Golden One turned toward Arif. "And you, mortal, do you know where you stand?" "Yes," Arif said clearly. "Do you understand what this place is?" "No," he admitted. The court stirred. "And still you followed her?" "I trust her, even knowing she is not of your kind." He looked at Laline. "Yes." A murmur passed through the veils. "Then he must be tested." Laline turned sharply. "No. He has walked beyond the gate. He has entered the hall of smoke. He has seen his name in the book of unspoken futures. The realm knows him now, and he must answer for it." Arif felt the change before it happened. The floor beneath him turned cold. The air around him thickened like honey. Suddenly, he stood alone in the center of the court. Even Laline had faded from sight, and in front of him something rose. A mirror, tall, silver, alive. "You will speak the 3 truths," the golden veil said, "and the mirror will decide." Arif's breath caught. "What if it doesn't like my answers?" "Then you will leave Kohakaf in pieces." The mirror pulsed, and the first question came, not in sound, but inside his head. "What do you fear most?" Arif blinked. He thought of drowning, of being forgotten, of losing Laline. "Losing her," he whispered. The mirror stayed silent, then glowed gently. The second question followed. "What do you hide from yourself?" He hesitated longer, then said, "That maybe I don't belong anywhere. Not here. Not in my world." The mirror shimmered, approved. Then came the third. "Would you betray her to save yourself?" Arif's throat clenched. He remembered her eyes when they first met. The way her hand reached for his. The truths she had shared. "No," he said firmly. "I'd stay, even if it ends me." The mirror dimmed, then vanished. The veils rustled again, and the Golden One spoke. "He speaks true." Laline stepped forward. Tears shimmered in her eyes. But the court was not yet done. "You may remain," the voice said, "for now." But Kohakaf remembers what it allows, and it always reclaims its gifts. As they left the court, Laline gripped his hand tightly. "I thought they would tear you apart," she whispered. I would have let them, if it meant staying with you." She smiled, but her smile carried sorrow now. Far above them, the stars shifted again, and in the deepest corner of the sky, one light blinked out. For a while, it felt like a dream. Arif and Laline wandered the lands of Kohakaf as if time had paused just for them. Days were no longer days. Nights no longer nights. The realm shimmered and shifted around them, blooming with impossible beauty. Moonlight rivers that changed color with laughter, floating islands heavy with blossoms that hummed lullabies, stone gardens that bloomed with fire in the cool of dusk. Arif was finally allowed to see. And the more he saw, the more he realized that Kohakaf wasn't just a place. It was a being, a living memory, and it now remembered him. At first, it welcomed him. When he walked through the forest of echoes, the trees bowed gently. When he placed his hand on the water, it warmed. And when he laughed with Laline beneath a drifting sky of jeweled birds, the world pulsed with light. But then, small things began to change. The wind began to whisper names that weren't his. Stones cracked as he passed, only to heal behind him. And once, in a mirror of dew, he saw not his reflection, but himself, older, eyes hollow, hand outstretched to no one. Laline noticed first. She said nothing for days, but one evening, as they stood in a tower made of frozen clouds, she turned to him with worry in her voice. "You're beginning to leave footprints," she said. Arif frowned. "Shouldn't I? No one does here. Not unless." She looked away. "Unless what?" "Unless the realm is deciding." "Deciding what?" "Whether to keep you," she said softly, "or consume you." They sat in silence. Far below them, the sky rained petals that never touched the ground. "Laline," he said, "what am I really doing here?" "You followed me." "I know. But why did you let me?" Her gaze lifted to the stars. "Because I loved your honesty." He swallowed hard. "And now," she met his eyes, "now I fear it may cost you everything." That night, Arif wandered alone. Not because he wanted to. Because Kohakaf called him. The sky darkened suddenly. The stars vanished, swallowed by shadows with shape and motion. The road beneath his feet grew narrow, then wide, then vanished altogether. He walked across memory, seeing flashes of his past float beside him like broken lanterns. His mother's hands, the first time he lied, the time he wished for more than what life gave him. And then he saw something he didn't recognize. Laline in chains. Her eyes downcast. Her wings, yes, she had wings now, folded and broken. A circle of fire around her, pulsing like a wound. He ran. But the path folded inward. And then he awoke. In the garden. Alone. Laline nowhere in sight. Only a single mark carved into the earth beside him. A ring of fire. He rushed to the palace. But the gates had changed. The crystal doors now bore symbols he couldn't read. Glowing, alive, warning. He turned to go to the Hall of Smoke. But the forest was gone, replaced by a still lake. At the center of the lake floated a boat. Empty. Waiting. He didn't step in. Not yet. Because he knew. Something in Kohakaf had shifted. The realm was no longer watching. It was choosing. And Arif was no longer simply a guest. He had become part of the story. And soon, the story would ask for a price. The silence in Kohakaf was no longer peace. It was warning. Arif wandered the now altered realm with every step feeling heavier, the air colder. The once vibrant gardens of living flame had dulled to ash-colored vines. The stars above shimmered erratically, as if flickering between dimensions. And Laline was gone. No whisper, no footprints, no mist left in her wake. Just absence. He searched for her. Through the tower of threads, where memories wove themselves into glass. Through the garden of forgotten songs, where once he had heard music from his dreams. But all paths bent backward, always returning him to one place. The lake of choosing, where the empty boat still floated, waiting. He sat on its edge one evening, letting his fingers trail through the glowing water. And that's when he heard her voice again. Not behind him, not beside him, but within him. You must understand, Arif. The voice guided him into the boat. He didn't resist. The water moved beneath him with no current. It simply knew where to go. As he floated deeper, the sky turned red. The stars vanished. And the wind began to whisper truths he had never dared ask. The boat stopped at an island of black stone. Carved into it were words he couldn't read. But somehow he understood. This is where her story began. Laline stood at the center. Her robe was torn, her feet bare. But her presence, fierce, eternal. She did not smile. You weren't supposed to come this far, she said. I followed because I love you. She shook her head. No. You followed because you're honest. Is that not the same? In your world, maybe. She turned and pointed to the carvings in the stone. These are my names, she said. Not one. Many. They gave me titles here. Before I had a face. Arif stepped closer. I don't care what they called you. You should. Why? Because one of them is a binding name. He frowned. I don't understand. She looked down. In Kohakaf, names are not given. They are earned. Each one is a vow. Each one a price. One of mine binds me to the realm. And the others? She met his eyes. Bind me to you. He stepped back, heart pounding. You mean, you've made a vow to me? I made it the moment I brought you across the gate." He shook his head slowly. "I never asked you to." "No," she said gently. "But you lived your life truthfully. And to a jinn, that is rarer than gold." She placed her hand on his chest. "And because of that, I gave you part of my name." The stone around them trembled. A roar echoed in the distance. Not an animal, not a storm, but Kohakaf itself. "They know," she whispered. "They've awakened the blood binding." "What is that?" "It means we are no longer two. You and I. No. You and the realm." He blinked. "Then what happens to me?" A long silence. Then her voice, barely audible. "You will become like me." Arif staggered. "You mean jinn?" "Not fully, but no longer human." "And you?" She hesitated. "I will remain what I've always been. A prisoner. A bridge." Suddenly, light exploded from the stone carvings. The ground cracked. Wind screamed. And 7 veiled figures emerged in flame and dust, the council. The golden-voiced one stepped forward. "The vow is sealed," it said. "And now Kohakaf must feed." Arif stood protectively in front of Laline. "I won't let you take her." The veil shimmered. "We won't. We will take you." The ground opened beneath him. Not to darkness, but to fire. And before he could fall, Laline grabbed his hand. "I made the vow," she whispered, and pulled him into the flame. It didn't burn. It remembered. And together they fell. Not into death, but into truth. The first thing Arif felt was breath. Not his own, but the breath of something vast, ancient, alive. It filled the air around him. It was the air. When he opened his eyes, there was no fire, no sky, no ground, just light. And then, slowly, the world of Kohakaf knit itself back together around him. But it was different now, and so was he. His skin glowed faintly beneath the surface, like ink under warm water. He didn't feel pain, or hunger, or even gravity. He felt pulled, as if the realm now moved with him, or perhaps within him. He stood. Laline was beside him, her hand still in his. They had fallen, yes, but not into destruction, into transformation. They were in a chamber Arif had never seen, a hollow made of gold-veined obsidian, floating in a void of stars. Dozens of runes swirled around them, ancient sigils of the jinn script, glowing in motion like planets orbiting a sun. Laline looked at him differently now. Not with love alone, with awe. "You survived the fire," she whispered. "No," he said. "We did." She reached up and touched his cheek. "You're changing." He noticed it, too. His voice echoed slightly when he spoke. The ground no longer responded to his steps. The air did. When he breathed, the stars seemed to pulse. Kohakaf no longer treated him as a visitor. He was now of the realm. They left the chamber in silence, stepping onto a path that formed beneath their feet, not made of stone, but of memory. It played sounds beneath their steps. Laughter, rain, wind over hills, the first prayer Arif ever whispered as a boy. The realm was welcoming him, but not all of it. In the Hall of Sight, where the elders once bowed, only silence remained. No guards, no torches, just a single red flame hovering in the center. It spoke with no mouth. The mark is yours. And the trial is not over. Arif touched his chest. Beneath his skin, the mark pulsed. It wasn't painful, but it wasn't human. Later, they stood on a balcony high above the floating spires. Kohakaf moved beneath them like a dream given shape. Laline was quiet. "You were never meant to stay," she said. "But I have. Not without consequence." He nodded. "I feel it. Like I'm disappearing. Or becoming something else. You are. Will I still be me?" Her eyes darkened. "If your soul is strong enough." A wind rose. Soft at first, then louder. From below, a sound began to build. A song, but fractured, broken. Like someone trying to sing through water. Laline froze. Her face paled. "The gate is opening," she whispered. Arif turned. Far off, across the sea of starlight, a great arch of fire rose into the sky. From it, shadows poured out, winged, robed, whispering. Not jinn, not human, other. "The forgotten ones," Laline said. "They were exiled, long ago, cast out for breaking the first vow. They've been waiting. For what?" She turned to him. "For someone like you." The wind howled. The sky cracked like glass. And in the distance, the court of Kohakaf lit its torches, red, not gold. The color of war. "They're coming for you, Arif." "Why?" "Because you survived the binding." "Because the realm chose me?" She looked at him. "No. Because I did." And from the void, a voice boomed. "The mortal has crossed the line. Now he must choose a side." The firestorm over Kohakaf glowed like a second sun. From the highest towers to the deepest chambers, the realm pulsed with unease. The skies once filled with drifting crystal birds and ribbons of light were now blackened by wings. Hundreds, maybe thousands, creatures that had no right to return. And Arif, standing beside Laline at the edge of the moon gate, felt the weight of the impossible pressing against his ribs. This wasn't a test anymore. It was war. Laline held his hand tighter than she ever had. "They've broken the sky," she said. "They never should have been able to." "What are they?" Arif asked, voice dry. Exiles. Fragments. Jinn who gave up their names to escape the bounds of law. And now they've come back? She nodded. They sensed you. The realm changing for a mortal, it tore a seam. And now, they think you're the key. The council appeared in the sky, 7 great veiled forms floating like constellations. The Golden One's voice rang through the realm. Mortal, you were warned. Kohakaf binds what it touches. You must stand where you belong. Laline stepped forward. No, she shouted back. He didn't break the vow. I did. Your bond is the reason he stands. And now he must choose, defend the realm, or be claimed by the forgotten. Suddenly, a spiral of dark flame erupted across the central spire. A figure emerged. Arif recognized it from his dreams. The Faceless One. Only now it wore his face. It spoke with 100 voices in one. You are not of them. You are not of us. You are something new. Arif stepped forward. I'm not your weapon. Then be their prisoner. The Faceless One lifted a hand. Below, towers crumbled. Screams echoed. Even light bent away. Arif turned to Laline. Tell me what to do. I can't, she said, tears brimming. Because if you choose Kohakaf, you become part of it. Forever. You'll never return to your world. And if I run, the exiles will use you. They'll burn everything that ever touched you. He looked to the sky, then back at her. Then we fight. Laline hesitated. We may lose. He smiled. I'd rather lose beside you than live without you. Together, they rose. Kohakaf opened beneath their feet, bridges of thought, towers of will. The realm granted them a path made of pure intention. And Arif, still glowing from the blood binding, stepped forward into the storm. The Faceless One lunged. Arif didn't flinch. He spoke a word. Not a name. A truth. I choose to protect. The word cracked the sky. The exiles shrieked. The towers of Kohakaf ignited with silver flame. And the realm, once uncertain of him, now moved with him. Swords of light formed. Winds sharpened. And Laline, wings finally unfurled, took flight beside him. They struck together. One of blood. One of fire. The battle raged across the starlit horizon. Arif struck down shadow after shadow, not with weapons, but with will. Every time he whispered a truth, about love, about sorrow, about sacrifice, the forgotten cracked, scattered, dissolved. Because the exiles had no truth left. Only hunger. By dawn, if it could be called that, the sky cleared. The exiles were gone. The veil was healed. And Kohakaf bowed. The council descended once more. You chose. I did. And the realm is changed. Arif looked at Laline. Is it over? She smiled. For now. The council asked one last question. Will you stay? Arif looked back, toward the shimmer of a distant door, the last link to his world. Then at Laline. His answer was simple. Yes. The days that followed were golden. Kohakaf, once watching Arif with caution, now opened to him like a song remembering its chorus. The skies cleared. The towers rebuilt themselves. Rivers of thought and memory began to flow again. And Laline was no longer a secret. She stood beside him in the council halls. She walked with him through the fire gardens. The realm whispered their names like a new verse in its endless hymn. But Arif noticed something. In quiet corners, veils still twitched. In fountains, his reflection hesitated before copying him. And sometimes, when he touched the air, it trembled, not from power, but from doubt. Why does it still feel like I'm being watched? He asked one night. Laline, curled beside him beneath a sky of moving constellations, turned her head slowly. Because the vow isn't done. I thought I chose. You did. Then what's left? She hesitated. You must prove that your love belongs. The council summoned them once more. This time, in the temple of trials. No flame. No fire. Just a single silver circle drawn on black stone. Inside it, a door. Not ornate. Not glowing. Just wood, like from his old village. The final path is yours alone, said the golden veil. Arif stepped forward. What's behind it? Everything you left behind. And one last question. He looked at Laline. She did not move. He stepped inside. He was back in his world. His village. But it wasn't right. The sky was dim. The trees unmoving. His house stood, but his name was missing from the wall. And in front of it, sitting alone, was his mother. She looked up, smiled, not surprised, not angry, just sad. You left, she said. I had to. Did you? Yes. You could have stayed. I found something else. Someone. His mother rose. She was younger now. Her voice deeper. Then why did you come back? He couldn't answer. The sky grew darker, and behind his house he saw a shadow. It had his face, but no eyes, no heart, no voice, just a hand reaching. Arif turned. I chose her. I don't belong here anymore. The shadow stepped forward. You will always belong to what made you, it said in his voice. But you will only live in what you protect. It vanished. The house faded, and in the distance he saw Kohakaf, not ahead of him, but within him. He stepped forward, and the sky peeled open. Arif awoke in the circle of silver. Laline waited outside it. She did not smile. She knelt. "You've returned," she whispered. "You remembered." He helped her up. "I didn't just remember. I let go." The council lit their torches. The veils lowered. "You have passed. You have chosen not once, but twice. Kohakaf accepts your love." Laline wept. The first time Arif had ever seen a jinn cry. And the realm. The rivers glowed gold. The towers lit with music. The stars pulsed in rhythm. And Arif felt something deep in his chest. Not fire, not magic. Belonging. But just as the wind settled, the ground shivered, and a black feather fell from the sky. Laline caught it, stared at it. Her eyes darkened. "What is it?" Arif asked. She swallowed. "Something from the old realm. The exiles." "No." She looked toward the sky. "Something older." The feather glowed black in Laline's palm. It didn't burn. It didn't move. But the moment it touched her skin, the wind in Kohakaf changed direction. The song stopped mid-note. And high above the sky towers, one of the oldest stars dimmed and fell. "What is it?" Arif asked again, stepping closer. Laline stared at the feather, her voice low. "An omen." "From whom?" She didn't answer at first. Then, softly, "From the first vow." The air thickened. Below them, the rivers slowed. The towers pulsed red. And across the realm, the whispers began again, not fearful, not angry, but mourning. Laline turned to Arif. Long ago, before the council, before the exile, there was a law, older than flame, older than names. A law made by the first jinn. What law? "No jinn," she said, "may give a vow of love to a mortal without waking the one beneath." The name sent a chill through Arif's veins. "The one beneath?" Laline nodded. "He is the watcher of all jinn vows. Buried before the stars were shaped, sealed in shadow. But each vow made in truth draws his eye. And now—" She held out the feather. "He has seen us." A deep groan echoed across the sky. Not thunder, not wind. A sound like earth weeping beneath oceans of time. And then the stars above them split. Just once. And from the crack fell a shadow. Not winged. Not formed. Just presence. Arif dropped to his knees. Laline stood tall. She did not blink. She whispered in the language of her ancestors, soft syllables that made the stones tremble. The shadow spoke back, in every voice, in Arif's voice. "Do you claim what is not yours?" Laline's lips did not move, but Arif spoke aloud. "I do." The sky rumbled. Do you vow in truth, knowing truth will burn you? I do. Will you pay its price? Yes. The ground opened beneath them. A great endless eye formed from stone and wind and flame. And a single drop of light, a tear or a spark, floated above it. Laline stepped forward. Take it, she whispered. Arif did. It pierced his palm. The pain was sharp, and yet not pain at all. It was memory. He felt every moment, every word, every glance from Laline's eyes, every time he had doubted, and every time she had stayed. The light entered him, and the wound became a mark, not binding, not magical, just his truth. The shadow above them quieted. The groans stopped, and the skies healed, slowly, like scars closing across the sky. Laline turned to him. It is done. You mean we're free? We're chosen, she said. The realm now bears our vow. No jinn may break it. No exile may steal it. And the one beneath? He sleeps again. They walked back together. Kohakaf sang once more. But it sang a new song. One with two names. A year later, the realm had changed. The skies bore new constellations. The gardens grew petals in the shape of promises, and at the center of it all, a tower was built, not of fire, not of crystal, but of wind, memory, and truth. They lived there. Arif, no longer mortal. Laline, no longer alone. And every day, they walked hand in hand through the realm they reshaped. But on the farthest edge of the starlit horizon, where the last dunes vanished into silver sky, a single doorway stood open, never closed, never forgotten, because love born of different worlds never seals itself shut. It waits for the next story.